Wow, look at that. Did you see that snazzy new opening to the program? Welcome in. It's so nice to be with you today. This is your old pal, Rev Deuce, and we are ready to worship, to fight disinformation, and to embrace fear today. That's right. The first half of the program today, or the beginning of the program today, will largely be a religious service, the secular religion that is the Megachurch of Joy. We're going to have a lot of fun getting ready for our day, and then we invite you to stick around to go through the news with Deuce, to talk about your media diet, and to get a fresh start on the world and what's going on so that you can have the context you need to understand the news, so that you can go forth out into the world and be a fact warrior. You can help everyone achieve joy and human connection by spreading fact-based information in the face of fear's program to divide us all. And so we welcome you in today. How are you today? You are a beautiful being of light. Did you know that? Do you believe that and accept that to be your truth? Because guess what? It truly is. And we choose you. Imagine a train going by wherever you are right now. And we here on the Megachurch of Joy choose you. Will you be fear's victim or fear's agent today? Or will you choose the third path, the path of human connection? That's right. When we drop our ego, when we realize that the person across from us is the same as us in every single moment, in one universe unit attempt, just one more universe unit, attempting to connect. Attempting to vibe on the same frequency and harmony in the pursuit of joyful harmony. When two beings begin to vibrate on the same frequency, in that moment, they experience joy. So come on in. We're going to keep talking about joy and fear and human connection for the next 20 minutes or so, and then we're going to get into the news with Deuce. So if you can't even be bothered to be interested in our message of joy, we invite you to come back at around 10 a.m. where we'll go through the news with Rev Deuce. But let's start out by saying the world is made up of two types of people: improvisers and everyone else who doesn't realize that they're an improviser yet. You're already on the Megachurch of Joy. You're already in the tub with your old pal Rev Deuce, because you are a human. And of course, shout out to all the doggos and cats who are listening. A squirrel who might be passing by and listening to this message. You too are a beautiful being of light, and we love you as well. Thank you, Red Ball. Thank you, Blue Ball. Thank you, Yellow Ball. When we thank the different colored random balls, we realize, well, my name is Rev Deuce Hansberry. When we thank the different colored red balls, the different colored balls, we realize that gratitude can be expressed at any time and for anything. We realize that gratitude is a way of being that we can be in all times of the day. So what are you thankful for today? You can be thankful for anything at any time. And so in each moment, it is important to be thankful and carry an attitude of gratitude throughout the day. When we express gratitude throughout the day, we find that we are buzzing with the right kind of energy. You are watching your good friend Rev Deuce as we kick off the day in the right way, the joyful way, the human connection way. David is thankful for his coworkers. What else are you thankful for in the chat on Substack or Instagram, where we can't see what you're saying, but we know that you're there and we love you. We invite you to come join in Twitch if you're watching on Instagram. Let's head over to the Energy Center for a second. 3 times a day, we want you to take a break and count your breath. 1 in, 2 out. 3 for in, and 4 for out. All the way to 10, that's 5 full breaths, that's right. Get in a comfortable seated position, close your eyes, pay attention to your breathing. Let's just do that for just 1 second here as we kick off our day in a grateful way. Feel the weight of your body in your chair. Feel where your hands press against your chair or your body, your thighs, the edge of the couch or the seat. Since we all understand in the Megachurch of Joy that we can try to be in control of our energy and direct our energy towards different things, towards the places we want it to go in our day, we like to take a moment every day and check in with our breath, check in with our body. How do we feel? How do you feel in this moment? And so let's move on to read the Daily Dose. The Daily Dose is a prayer that we say in this secular religion based on the tenets of quality improvisational comedy. Those tenets being love, support, energy, commitment, giving, and connection. Love, of course, means the energy we have when we engage with any other human being. An energy of appreciation and love. So we say, self, today I endeavor to be a better teammate than yesterday. I vow to keep it simple, to step on the stage of life, to listen better, commit harder, and to give more expertly. It is my joyous burden to appear as a rock star and to make other people appear as rock stars, and to support the ideas of others. I will move past obstructions, drop insecurities, and put trust in myself and others. I will attempt to emotionally connect with whomever I meet. I say this in the spirit of best intentions. Yes, and. Did you know that you are a rock star? Wherever you are across the globe right now, understand that you are a rock star. What does it feel like to be a rock star? To be a rock star is to feel in control of your energy. To be a rock star is to understand that your ideas are valuable. To be a rock star is to understand that you are a beautiful being of light who will step out of your house today and into the scene of life, knowing that whatever you say is okay as long as you're not being a dick. To be a rock star is to know that you are beautiful, you are unique. Your smile is like a ray of sunshine, so please help us all out and smile at others, smile at yourself, and know that you have excellent taste in everything that you care about. So how will you give thanks today? How will you make sure that other people look like a rock star today? How will you give the gift of listening today? I encourage you to listen. I encourage you to agree, to commit to the ideas of others even when you don't want to. Because that is what the improviser does on the stage of comedy, and it is what you can do in the stage of life. Remember, what we do here is we take all of the tools we learn in improvisational comedy, energy, support, commitment, giving, connection, and gratitude, and we apply them throughout the day to every moment of our life. So when we give the gift of listening, it does not cost us anything. It is merely the act of one energy receiving the energy of another without judgment, and hopefully, in the absence of fear. We say, yes, and I support you. We say, yes, and I give to you. We say, yes, and I commit to hearing your words. We say, yes, and I am grateful for hearing them. For Todd so hated the world that he made sure to fuck us all up and keep everyone from achieving their dreams. Yes, and in the face of that energy, in the face of Todd's eternal hate and judgment, We turn towards him, fear, our God, Todd, the God of fear. We turn towards him in every moment, and we see yes and. What do you have next for us, fear? What would you try to terrorize us with next, fear? We look at you and we realize, fear, that you are not our enemy. You are a vanquished child, grown up, acting out patterns of cycles of abuse and violence in this world. And so we say, we love you, fear. We embrace you, fear, and we will push back against your mode of disinformation and hatred, division, cruelty, persecution, and bigotry in every single moment, because we know you cannot help yourself, and so we will help you. Yes, and. Unconditional and consensual love. That is what we give out here every day on the program, and that is what we implore everyone else to give to everyone else in the world every day. Now, let's sing our first hymn of the day. The hymn will be based on the suggestion of a right-wing bullshit talking point. That is right. The culture war is created for us by the arms dealers at the psychological warfare think tanks owned by the right-wing billionaires. And so the culture war is nothing more than a missile aimed at all times at our heads, at our brains inside of those heads. And so we push back on that here today. So Rev Deuce asks you, especially those of you in Substack, Rose, Tony, and Tom Renders, we ask you, Freddie Boop, we ask you, Will Robinson, we ask you, El New, we ask you, Bryn, if you're still here, to suggest anything at all that is a culture war talking point. Yesterday we did boys in women's bathrooms, men dressing up, spending their whole life trying to transition so that they can assault women instead of just assaulting women. All right, Real Madison wants us to sing a hymn about DEI. Rev Deuce will be stretched to the limits of his improvisational skills as he takes on the suggestion, as he follows his own fear, to improvise a song in front of everyone right now. And the suggestion of the genre shall be, what shall it be? While we wait for the suggestion of a genre, we are going to remind everyone that this program is brought to you by Grass Milk. Grass Milk Soar. We want everyone to understand that they are helping the world if they imbibe and ingest a media diet that is healthy, that is strong, that is full of facts that make your body and mind strong throughout the day. Start your day with a healthy, nutritious breakfast of information tight. I guess that implies that we're eating ass when I do that in that sequence that I just do that. So put down the information light. And pick up the information tight, because we are at all times inundated, friends, neighbors, and loved ones, with an information war. Lemon Raccoon, we want to welcome you into the tub of joy here, beaming live from Boca Raton, Florida, where it's always 69. Yes, and thank you so much for being here. We were going to ask you to follow, and then you did. Yes, and that is a beautiful thing. So we are about to improvise a song based on the suggestion of, hey, Michaela. It's Michaela. Hell yeah, Michaela is locked in, our furry friend. We're going to learn so much about what it means to be a mildly famous furry on the internet in 2025 over the time and space that we spend with our other beautiful being of light, Michaela, because we are all beautiful beings of light. If you are in the Substack, can I get a yes and in the chat over there, because we love you. So let's start. We've got we lift you up. What a genre. I vote country. David votes country. So let's keep it going. Thank you, Big Nick. Big Nick, we will end today's program with a sermon around, let's say 10 Around 10:40, we'll start to wind down and bring it back. Names kind of stick around here if you prefer another name. Best make it now. Okay, I don't know what David is talking about, but country, we love outlaw country too. Do we just always do the same song for each genre? I kind of love this one, so we're just going to do it. We're not going to mess around. I realized that I should save and make collections, and I'm going to do that so that this part of the program is quicker. LPC and J.E. Moyer, we are about to improvise a song based on the culture war bullshit notion of DEI being something to denigrate rather than celebrate. And we are going to do it with the genre of country. And so here we go. Rev Deuce is following his own fear, and Rev Deuce is just going to turn off the waves. I need to make that smoother, and Rev Deuce is going to turn off the music. And here we go. One day, a couple of scared little boys, they woke up to say, I'm gonna make some money today. So they went to the Claremont Institute, and they went to the Manhattan Institute, and they told a couple billionaires, I got an idea for you. You know how you are born of segregationist politics? Well, I've got an idea for how we can be a bunch of dicks. We can tell the nation that minorities don't have any skills, and if we see them in a job, we should all run scared. We should pretend that people are not all doing the best they can with just what they have. We should pretend that white people are only the ones who have any skills. So we'll attack DEI. We'll attack DEI. We'll get a third of the nation in celebration to limit the opportunities of their fellow citizens. For you see, we used to be able to say racist things out loud in the 1960s to gain the support of people to vote for us. We just use the N-word. That's what we do. We didn't care. It was okay back then. For people like us, we weren't scared. But then society progressed after the civil rights movement, and we had to figure out a way to signal to our voters that we still cared about hating other races. So we started talking about forced busing. We started talking about economic programs where it was understood that minorities would be hurt the most. So we started to talk about forced busing and other things like welfare. We implied that white people weren't the biggest users of welfare. And so we hatched a plan across the land to attack DEI. We said, if you see a black guy instead of if you see a white guy, you gotta be so scared. We're gonna imply your plane will crash, and then we tell everyone that it is racist to decide that we are racist for attacking everyone. We hate DEI, and now we made you hate it too. All right, that was just okay, says Deuce. Deuce thinks that one was just okay, but it was a way to start off the day. And so we'll always be trying to do better songs for everybody. Maybe we do need to be inspired by a different track. So that was how we start off our day here after we do our morning routine and ritual as part of the Megachurch of Joy. We want to welcome everyone in who just watched that song. We make up and improvise songs based on the suggestion of a culture war bullshit missile in the information war. That's right. At all times, right-wing think tank apparatchiks are coming up with ideas for how to divide all of us. Christopher Rufo literally has stated in public that his whole program is to manipulate the public opinion and get them to associate new weird topics they bring up that nobody cares about except if you're a legal scholar like CRT. They turn that into something that the mothers of kindergartners care about. They conspire to tell them that your child is being shamed in their school. No teachers are shaming children in their school, and as elementary school especially. They are simply teaching the history of America. As a white person, I can tell you right now that if someone tells me about how there used to be slavery, and even if my grandfather was perpetuating Jim Crow, you know what? I don't feel shame. I just think that's regrettable. And I think, how can I love everyone? And that's the lesson you could teach your child, right? You don't have to be embittered and listen to this program of manipulation that they make up at all the right-wing think tanks. And if you want to have a conversation about that or quiz me on that, we can get in the tub. You can get in the tub with Rev Deuce. Hop on in, give a call. We want to talk to you. But so for now, we're going to move on to doing the news with Deuce. That's right. Every single morning, we get into the news with Rev Deuce, and we talk about the issues, and hopefully don't grab the tissues. You know what I'm saying? So here we go. Let's kick it off, baby. Oh, what do we do, baby? Here we go. Let's move it along. Come on, Deucey. You can do it. Click on the clacks and clack on the clicks. So look at this piece of disinformation that your old pal Rev Deuce saw. Oh, you know what? Excuse me. Excuse me. Where'd that come from? Excuse me. There we go. So welcome in LPC, DEO, David Stady. We are going to go through the news with Deuce. We're obviously doing something right. If you enjoy this programming, please click and clack on the heart symbol wherever you are. Follow, like, subscribe. Engage with public enlightenment wherever you can across the internet. And of course, you can see on the screen ways that you can donate to your old pal Rev Deuce. He would really appreciate the donation. So look at this. I was on X, which none of you should be on. Rev Deuce goes on X so that you don't have to. So Rev Deuce was on X, and he saw this weird piece of disinformation. So let's check it out. Let's see if it is disinformation. So this person says, looks like maybe you didn't do any specific studies or sources either. I looked up this meme to find there were slight errors and I fixed it. However, even if you don't look it up, it only takes simple math to know that it takes 27 years to provide due process for 10 million immigrants. Okay, so that's called whataboutism, and that's floating around on the internet. Now let's see what the original... Am I going to lose this? I lost it. How do you go up? All right, let's just go back. I lost it. Here we go. Let's go back to Yvonne Bobana. And let's see. Okay, so what is she saying? So she's sharing this thing, and she's saying that you know, all these guys did a bunch of deportations, and they're talking about how Trump is the only one getting this massive number of injunctions, right? And so this is a piece of manipulation that is coming from the right wing, because Donald Trump, it's propaganda. Part of propaganda is decontextualization. Okay, and so when you share information without context, that is a way of manipulating public opinion and doing disinformation. So when we look at this, we see 100,000 deportations by Trump in this current term. We don't even know if this is true per se, and then 30 injunctions. The overall message of this is that Trump is doing much less than these guys have done so far, and he's gotten 30 injunctions. The injunctions are because he is shipping people, he's not deporting people. So that word there, deportation, is incorrect. Donald Trump is exiling people who are in this country. He is removing them and rendering them to foreign third nation labor camps. That is something that happened during the Holocaust. We're not saying that that is what is happening just yet, but we want people to understand that these are not deportations, right? So that is a decontextualization by the right wing. And we want people to understand how there is a difference between a deportation back to someone's country because they are illegally here and a rendering to a black site labor camp in a foreign country. And so we want people to understand what people are seeing on X. We could even call this Elon Musk wellness check. Okay, so let's keep going through the news with your old pal Deuce. We've got, again, X is not where you should get your news, but I just wanted to show you more disinformation and more propaganda. So some of the comments I thought on this were really important. So I'm not trying to further dox this family, but they were doxed by the federal government. Right, this woman who is a U.S. citizen had her address posted on the internet by Homeland Security. Okay, and now she has to be under protection because of obviously all the hate that they have been spewing about this man, calling him a terrorist. So this is propaganda from our government. It should be terrifying to all of us. So according to court filings, they say Garcia's wife sought a domestic violence restraining order against him, claiming he punched, scratched, and ripped off her shirt, among other harm. So there's some really good contextualizing. Oh, look at that. It's your old pal Public Enlightenment. But so Fred Wellman says, you just doxed a family from an official account of the United States. Someone else said, I've represented many victims of domestic violence in similar civil protection cases. These are not criminal proceedings. The legal standard is lower. The evidence is different. There's no criminal penalty. This person says, so instead of posting its affiliation with MS-13, right, which they are not proving, they have not proved, they did not make it a part of their argument. In fact, they admitted that it was an administrative error and that he should not have been pushed out of the country. This administration decided to post a court filing that he wasn't convicted of for something that he wasn't convicted of to show the reason why he was then deported. Okay, so there's some context for all of us on that. So we just want to understand, especially our MAGA friends and loved ones, that we are being fed propaganda by our own government right now. That was such a concern of yours when people like Mike Benz were generating some BS based on, some very small, minor, flimsy stuff, right? Associated with recommending to companies during a global pandemic that they do something about disinformation about public health. And now what we have is the government literally putting people in prison. So like if that was so bad, what Joe Biden was doing, we literally have them putting people in prisons in third-party countries, okay, without any trial or any need to establish criminality, putting them in a jail with the help of a foreign country. Do we understand? Hey, Jason Dyer saying in the Substack that he's late to the party. There's no such thing as being late to the party. It's a party every day, single day inside the Megachurch of Joy. So NPR has pushed left-wing propaganda for decades, says Senator Jim Banks. I just want everybody to see what's going on over on this hellscape. Your taxpayer dollars have been funding it. My bill puts an end to it. So we do not think that Jim Banks is going to get 60 votes in the Senate to pass this bill. However, this is just one more step in the decades-long attack on any kind of media that might hold the right-wing extremists to account. Richard Nixon told Henry Kissinger, the press is the enemy, the press is the enemy. Write it 100 times on the chalkboard, the press is the enemy. They changed the word press to media back then. They started using that word to undermine the associations that the public had with journalism and the press, reporting in the public interest. The original purveyors of exposing fraud, waste, corruption, and abuse, that was and still is journalists. Okay, we need you to understand that, MAGA, and we love you so much. And if you have a MAGA relative, we want you to bring them in to the fold. We want you to get them in to the Megachurch of Joy, into the Mega Tub of Joy. Have them call into the program. We can talk about their media diet. That would be so wonderful. So let's actually look at some of these comments. It's kind of encouraging. We should not be on X, but we should continue to understand what's happening over there. This person, Ethan Chase, says, labeling NPR as purely left-wing propaganda might overlook its efforts to provide diverse perspectives. Public funding supports a broad range of voices, which can enhance our democratic discourse rather than limit it. And that's an interesting point from Ethan Chase. The thing also is that we barely fund public media at all. We spend roughly $1.60 per capita on public media in this country. And a very low percentage of PBR's actual budget comes from government funding. And so we want to push back. And the question to ask, well, we have a call-in coming into the show right now. We're just going to cold answer this call. I believe I know who it is, but let's see who it is, and let's welcome them to the show. Hello, you're on the air with Rev Deuce.
Hi, Deuce. I am Scott. And I'm hearing you talk about NPR and how they receive funding from the United States government and all that. I'm having difficulties understanding how people can see it as a left-wing propaganda network.
Sure, thanks.
It seems to me to be just fact-based journalism, but I'm not too sure.
Sure. So there has been a coordinated attack against public media for years by the right wing in this country. So it is not left-wing media, right? Like, we have to ask ourselves, does it talk about communism? Does it push for us to have a communist structure of government in this country? That is what should really be our understanding of what the left wing would mean in this country. So let's...
But I'm hearing you say that, right? I'm hearing you say about the bias that they have towards what they're reporting, but it is fact-based, it seems. You know, they might have their opinions on it.
Exactly. Thank you for that, lobbing me that softball, Scott. So, Scott, what it is you are correct. Facts, the bias that we need to care the most about is towards facts and democracy. And when we evaluate any media, piece of media. And so when there's a bias towards facts and democracy, you might get different frames. You might get different things that you agree with or don't agree with in terms of the framing of a story. But there's no such thing as objectivity in media. Everyone has a bias towards something, whether it be a bias to run articles that will get the most clicks, whether it be a bias to run articles that conform to the ideas that are passed down and the narratives that are passed down by the ownership at the top, who's really in control of any given media outlet. You know, it is possible for there to be a firewall, but when we see evidence of legacy media institutions like the Washington Post and like the LA Times and even like the New York Times, when the New York Times editor-in-chief Joe Kahn says something like ahead of the 2024 election that there are several issues involved in this election, and democracy is just one of them, you start to get a little bit of a window, which he said in an interview in 2024. You start to get a little bit of a window into the idea that these institutions do not have as their number one priority in guiding their frames and the work that they do, preserving democracy. They are going to get along and go along to get along. And that means when we have a fascist regime, they are going to cover it in a sympathetic way. And so we even see that with NPR. So to say and contend that NPR is left-wing media is an absurdity when it is treating extremism on the right as oftentimes normal political discourse and energy in this country. Of course, they may write an article or two that talks about how, or an opinion piece that talks about the rise of extremism on the right, but that is the origin for those attacks, right? The right, and it's the MAGA right and the extreme right, in terms of leadership, cannot handle the idea that the discourse would have in it in any way some negativity about the right. So they generate attacks on the left, everything and everyone who is not MAGA in their right-wing think tanks, and then the right-wing billionaires sponsor these politicians because we have Citizens United and money is speech in our country. They sponsor these politicians who then doggedly attack public media that reports in the public interest and that is, we would say, much too neutral in this time when it comes to a bias towards democracy. Because, yes, of course, it is fact-based. Thank you, Scott.
I think that, I'm hearing what you're saying. The idea that the media outlets as they are currently are communistic to me is just absolutely absurd. It's an argument that falls apart right on its face as soon as we start to look at it. I mean, they're not arguing that the dollar should be done away with. They're not arguing any of these communistic ideas that you would associate with true communism, but you do see a mirror of that on Fox, where they do support authoritarianism. I mean, you have Elizabeth Warren going on there trying to talk to the anchors about the separation of powers. How ridiculous is that? They need a 1-minute civics lesson, and they're reporting on the news? Get out of here. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. And they're just trying to all make money. It's a capitalist market, and they don't care whether it's, communistic or authoritarian, so long as they continue to exist and they continue to make profits. And, I'm just tired of this media outlet as it stands right now. And the idea that you can critique certains without turning around and looking at your own source is absolutely absurd. But thank you for having me this morning. I'm still completely unsure about you and your whole thing, but I appreciate it.
Wow, thank you so much, Scott. Incredible. We just had Scott call in and discuss his feelings and his thoughts and his ideas. And we love that because everyone has ideas. In every single moment, you have an idea. And do you share it with the world or do you not? Do you share it in a non-dickheadish way with other people? Because that is what we should all be doing, because we are all beautiful beings of light with ideas. And we should all be trying to listen and agree, commit to the ideas of others whatever we can. So Scott's not sure about what we're doing here, but we invite Scott to stick around, to have an open mind and open energy, because that's what we will do with you, Scott, in the future and forever. So thank you so much for calling in. And, especially Scott, I want to correct a thing that I think Scott got wrong, which is that I think he's referring to Elizabeth Warren being on like a CNBC program, but the critique stands. Because you have anchors pushing back against and not understanding the separation of powers. And we want the people who are, even if it's cable television, which is the lowest form of our information diet when it comes to our information diet on television, we want people to be getting it right, and we want the people who are talking to us to understand information. So this is a report by the Media Matters for America about attacks on public media. And so we are going to drop that into our Discord chat. And we are that is a place where you can go and be a fact warrior. We drop things into the Discord chat. You could join the Discord at any time by following the link tree in any of our accounts that you may be watching on today. And so we want to drop that in so that people can do a little bit of work to be a fact warrior on their own and understand that there is a decades-long effort to attack public media. This document is a 9-page document. It only goes back, I think, to the 2016 election. And so it will provide you for some perspective on those attacks. So welcome in, everybody. We want to keep welcoming folks into the tub of joy. Oops, Rev Deuce did not mean to do that, but who cares? And Jim Banks also, who's kicked off this conversation, is a January 6th election liar. So we want to bring back this picture of Jim Banks, and we want to remind people that Jim Banks has lied to all of us before. And so, if we were to see him quoted with these kinds of opinions in a New York Times piece, We would hope that they would say this is an untrustworthy source and maybe not use him and quote him at all because he's willing to lie to the American public about elections. So why should he be used as a voice to tell people what's going on in their country? Right? Do you follow what I'm saying? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Are you recognizing that at all times you are in an information war? Yeah, heck yeah. We got to get better with that transition out of that thing. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's keep hanging out. What do we got? We got one more here, and then we can probably watch a couple of videos. And we want you to watch these videos with Deuce. And if Deuce says to share them, what was I writing down last night? I was writing down all kinds of ideas. We're going to keep building this program and making it really tight. Yeah, baby. So Donald Trump is selling 2028 hats on his official merch site. Let's go verify that claim. Oh, oops. I had that up on the screen. But so Donald Trump is already, and this is really just a trolling effort, but it is so disgusting and such anathema to the idea of America. And we want to push back, MAGA, on your acceptance of this idea. So here we go. Let's get into it. I just typed intro because Madison typed intro. Did I see the Trump Kids Guide? No, we did not see that, Michaela. Now let's go to Trump 2028 hat. Let's just see if it's reported in other places. Trump 2028 hats and t-shirts for sale on the U.S. president's online store. First of all, just the reality that the president has an online store. That's deeply corrupt. It's something that's never happened before. And, you know, they have plausible deniability by saying that, well, maybe it's Eric who will run, you know? Maybe it's Eric who toured the country on the Reawaken America tour with enemy of our country, Michael Flynn, where they would host pastors who would get on stage and talk to the audience, sanctioned by the son of a U.S. president. Those pastors would tell people that Democrats drink the blood of children. And so we just have to understand that this is mostly a troll, but it is a troll of the very worst kind. It is a troll of the very worst kind because it is a troll that is based in the annihilation of the Constitution. It is preempting people's thoughts about the reality of their government and what they've learned since they were children. You know, I didn't have civics in my class, but I'm told that before I was in high school, they used to teach civics in this country. And so it preempts people's thoughts about civics and the reality that we only have two terms for any president in this country. And so we are going to sing another song right now, and then we are going to get into some hard news, and then we are going to watch a couple music videos. We're going to watch a couple. I could sing while we watch the videos, but then we're going to watch a couple videos on the internet because we understand here in the Megachurch of Joy that we have to push back against fear's program of hate and division that is being sold to us, pushed on us, injected into our brains every single time we are online. Hold on one second. Why don't you type in to the chat, everybody? Why don't you type into the chat the suggestion of a genre, please, for Rev Deuce. Rev Deuce is going to sing another song right now, and it's going to be about a salesman in the White House, and not even a salesman. David, it is a corrupt individual in the White House. Polka, Midwest emo. I like Midwest emo. Madison. So one thing that you can do as an improviser is you can take, we got folk from Jason Dyer. So there's a competing thing. Okay, Jason, I see that you said folk in the Substack, but I do see that our newest member, Michaela, said Midwest emo. I do not even know what that is. So Jason, with love, I want to say I heard I want to say we can repeat the same genres because certain genres work best for. But I heard Midwest emo. Now, is there going to be anything like Midwest emo in this thing? Midwest emo song. What is Midwest emo? Okay. Okay, we're going to add this to a collection called Midwest Emo for the next time that someone requests Midwest Emo as a genre. I don't really know how to sing Midwest Emo, especially if I'm in my apartment and I try to keep it quiet. But okay, we're getting a feel for this. Oh, okay. Okay. All right, everybody. We are going to sing a song about what are we singing a song about? We like to improvise songs here about culture war bullshit ideas that are nothing more than missiles created by the arms dealers of psychological manipulation at the right-wing think tanks, CRT, DEI. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. I don't know if that was in a right-wing think tank, but Moms for Liberty, all of these things, Barry Weiss, all of these people, they go and they pitch anti-woke ideas. They literally say, let's start a new anti-woke idea and place that in the public discourse. That is literally how it works. And so what are we improvising about? We're improvising about a corrupt person in the White House, a con man in the White House, someone who's selling merch while they're in the White House. I don't like... Okay, all right, sorry, here we go. Okay. Here we go. Improvising a song about having a corrupt huckster in the White House. Oh, wait a second. A salesman. I see. We're singing about how a businessman. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. I've been told that the President of the United States is a businessman. I've been sold on the idea that the most corrupt individual in history is just a businessman. And I think that I'm being lied to. I think I'm being lied to. Donald Trump is a con man, but they told me that he is the man. Donald Trump is a con man, but they tell me he is the man. Selling steaks, selling fraudulent universities. He made a crypto coin, put it in front of the White House. Now anybody can give him money. Anybody can give him money anonymously. He's gonna sell me a hat that says Trump 2028, and I'm not gonna see the gross hypocrisy. We got a con man in the White House, a con man in the White House. And they're telling me he's just a businessman. Many bankruptcies. How many bankruptcies will it take until you see he's just a con man in the White House? He'll sell you a steak, he'll sell you a watch, he'll say, look over here, while he steals democracy. Okay, all right. That was something. We just improvised a song about the con man in the White House. We had a good time doing it. That was a banger. That was a banger. Oh, Jim Janger. That was a banger. Okay, so let's put... Oh, we had the music and the waves the whole time. So we want to thank you, Lemon Raccoon, for sharing that idea with us. We want to thank you, Jason Dyer, for tapping that heart thing in the comments. We're so grateful for everyone who's coming in and joining and telling everybody else about the Megachurch of Joy, where we talk about embracing fear and we fight disinformation. That's what we do here. So we want you to be here in the tub with us every single friggin' day. And that's great. So thank you so much for that suggestion. In the future, I might try to sing louder so that I can really do that, because I want to sing that really loud and proud. So everybody, here we talk about the information war. Are you imbibing information light that puts you to sleep and numbs you to the destruction of your country? Or are you imbibing information tight that makes you sexy and someone that others love and look up to? Yes, and. This show is sponsored by Grass Milk Soar. It's also brought to you by Madison, the patron saint of the grift, who reminds you at all times to go to your Cash App and your Venmo and give some money to your old pal Deuce, because he can't do this for free for very much longer. Also, go to publicenlightenment.com, where you can read articles about how to find fact-based information in the public interest. Oh, ignore that. And how to flood the zone with facts about due process rights and Kilmar Abrego Garcia. How to share information about Charlie Kirk and how he is a billionaire psyop funded by Christian extremist right-wing billionaires who have been doing the same program for decades. The Leadership Institute is just a precursor to TPUSA. Young Americans for Freedom is also a right-wing billionaire-funded attempt to destroy the academy, because it is ultimately a place where people are sometimes given ideas about the world that are anti-capitalist and anti-corporate, and the business elites in the 1970s realized that they had to take over the academy, just as the dominionists in the right-wing Christian extremist movement realized that they have to take over all the pillars of society in order to destroy the Constitution and enact a theocracy. That is the real deal of what's happening at all times in this country. So go to publicenlightenment.com, read about where the disinformation is coming from, read about the websites that you can go to find peaceful protests towards you so that you can make content and fight for your rights. We do not say that you should not use your phone when you go to a peaceful protest. We do not say that here. We understand the arguments for why you might not want to do it, but we believe that we have to be showing other Americans and modeling for them what it looks like to protest the destruction of their country in this time. So please, we invite you to go and look up information about what you should do with your phone when you go to a protest, but we do not want to encourage you to not use your stuff at a protest, whatever that means. Okay. Here we go. Let's get into some more news. Let's read the news with Deuce, and let's go on to the social media apps, because on the social media apps is where 1/5 of all U.S. adults get their news, and where 40% of adults under the age of 30 get their news. And we know that influencers do not fact check their information. Over 60% of influencers do not fact check any of their information at all. So we are going to go to Rev Deuce's saved posts here on Instagram, and we're going to see what Rev Deuce has been watching. Now, this is fascinating. Is this AI? I have to ask, because this is such an argument by Candace Owens that is in opposition to what they normally talk about on the disinformation
fighting against free speech in America. And that is very sad for me to say and to report as someone who has been a supporter of Donald Trump. We cannot allow our rights to be infringed upon. And if you think it's going to stop with college campuses, you're out of your mind. So you better buck up and root for Harvard University in this fight. You better hope that they defeat the Trump administration and this absurd definition. They even include parts of the Bible. They're like, you can't say that the Jews had anything to do with Christ, killing Christ. Which is, you know what that is? It's not anti-Semitism, it's anti-Catholic. Trump administration.
Okay, so is that true? Did Candace Owens really say? Candace Owens Candace Owens is a disinformation agent. She is a former actor who was looking for work and was hired because she was willing to do disinformation for organizations like Talking Points USA, and she is now doing her own disinformation. We wonder who owns her podcast. Okay, so Candace Owens, anti-Trump. I can, David. Okay, I guess this is true. We'll go to The Root, which is a black-owned media source. The Root says Candace Owens finally speaks out against Trump for this reason, and Black TikTok is shook. The far-right commentator declares how we cannot allow our rights to be infringed upon. This is interesting, y'all. I don't know if this is tea leaf reading by the right-wing disinformation propaganda complex, where they are now deciding that they are watching the tide turn. You know, Donald Trump's approval numbers are the lowest for any U.S. president at this time, besides the previous Donald Trump approval numbers from his previous administration. So maybe they are reading the tea leaves and they are deciding that they should push back a little bit so that they conform to the reality of their followers who are becoming disgruntled, and then they will continue the program. Because don't get it twisted, Candace Owens is not going to have a come to Jesus moment unless she believes that it is best for her career to switch what she talks about and to, you know, start being more progressive or center in her stuff. I mean, first of all, let's not reward her here. This is like doing the most basic thing, and it does not in any way absolve her of all of the disinformation and hate that she has spread over the years, the misogyny and all of those other things. But it's very interesting, is it not? So let's go back. So she actually did say that. Let's see. So this is Fox News. I won't. That's great, Madison. That's a great attitude.
If you look at our new Fox News poll at 100 days job approval compared to other presidents, there you see the president at 44%, and you see his first term at 45% at this mark, the 100-day mark. We have other new polls that are revealing some concerns about the economy. Let's talk about that, the politics and these polls.
So Brett Baer sounds very sad as he says that. We wanted to show you this also. This is really scary. This is a video that people would see. This is such a window into our lack of humanity, right? Watch this young man.
This is a prison here inside of El Salvador, and each and every single person you see right now in this video are prisoners, and they made this factory so that way they can now use this factory to create new clothes, one for the prisoners, for the schools, for the government themselves, the hospitals, anything they need, they can now use it and make it here inside of El Salvador versus having to go get it from a country like the United States or China, helping create a more self-sufficient El Salvador. And each and every single day that a prisoner is working here inside of this factory, they then get 2 days taken away from their sentence. So imagine you have 10 years on your sentence, and by working in here, you can get your sentence reduced all the way down to 5 years. Technically, if you work for 5 years inside of this prison, you are then going to get your time cut in half.
This is literally an advertisement for this prison. So Bukele, the guy who is in charge in El Salvador, does. He, in fact, invites influencers from America to tour his prison operation and do propaganda about it. You may have seen this kid on the internet. He goes to different spaces and he interviews people from a Trump perspective, and it's just wild. He's talking about how great it is to learn a skill and reduce your sentence. You know, Bukele has been said on the record that many innocent people have been wrapped up in his crackdown. So these are potentially innocent men working in here. And I guess the chat is talking about how the math is bad there. And so what is this one? What is this one? Oh, that's one that's not that interesting. So then let's go over to TikTok. So we don't really have anything for y'all to share from there, but let's go over here to our reposts on TikTok. So we want people to go to our TikTok and share this article. This.
Supreme Court if they're not going to follow the ruling of the Supreme Court.
This is Senator Chuck Grassley. I mean, at least we'll give 0.1 out of a million potential props. We'll give 0.1 props to Grassley, who continues to do these town halls. I'm sure that the leadership of the Republican Party is telling him stop doing this. In some weird, misguided, convoluted way, you know, while also supporting the fascist regime. He believes that, you know, he's being democratic, small d democratic, by holding these town halls. So, I mean, at least it's great that he's providing more fodder for everyone else who's non-MAGA. We need to show the world and the nation that there are Americans, especially in MAGA areas, who do not accept what is happening, the fascist rise in this country. So we encourage you to go to the reposts on TikTok and repost this video. It does not boost Deuce in any way. Okay, you boost Deuce by giving him money right here on the screen. Do you see that? That's how you boost Deuce. I'm waiting for it all to start pouring in. You're going to grab your money. You're going to hold on to it. You're going to put your fears into your money because you are so racked with fear, and only Rev Deuce can do anything about your fear. That's right. Only your pal Rev Deuce has the ability to take away your fears. So we want you to take your hard-earned money, your money that would go otherwise to feed your small child and to pay off your student debt loans. And we want you to take that hard-earned money right now, and we want you to take your fears, your fear of inadequacy, your fear of being good enough, your fear of will you ever achieve your dreams, and we want you to hold it tight. And then we want you to log on to those cash-giving apps, and we want you to find your friend Deuce at Follow the Fear, and we want you to send him that money. And when you send that money to your old pal Rev Deuce, he will be able to absolve you of all of your fears. That's right, you will break free from fear, and on the other side of that fear, once you donate money to Rev Deuce, you will be free from fear, and you will be that much closer to joy. Human connection is the greatest access to joy, and so we want you to connect with Deuce by lifting him up. So what do we think that David said that caught him? What word do we think is in the bot that we now have working? So what word did you say, David? Can you get around it and tell me? So I have some moderation on there. And so the moderation is for the basic words that they have in their basic thing. And I don't know what it even is. Jason says that this Senator Grassley, who's been in Congress for 9 billion years, that he is braver than his Senator McCormick. Where is that? What state is McCormick? I don't know. I can't know everything, but let's keep watching, and we want you to share this video as far and as wide as you can so that we can model for people the reality that you can engage civically and that you should interact with your members of Congress, because that is the core of democracy. Oh, so they excise the word dick?
Pretty clear. That's what's been brought up about Garcia, and she brought up about just many other people, that this wouldn't even be an issue if Biden had enforced the law.
So that is classic whataboutism. I mean, I truly believe that Mitch McConnell probably held courses in whataboutism, that they have been told, they have been trained. You know, I've seen stuff where, like, on the right-wing disinformation space online, where people see that, like, a Congress person who's a Democrat has said, like, we meet to talk about how we can push back against this program by the Trump administration and refute what they are doing. And then people make memes of that and make videos on the internet, and they say, can you believe this conspiracy by the Democrats? It's like Grover Norquist has been holding a morning meeting every week for like 40 years to get every Republican politician on the same page of Grover Norquist's hyper-libertarian program, okay? Anyway.
He got tattoos on his body.
So, okay, so that first woman, we understand, is saying it's okay to render people to prisons that are, you know, in foreign countries for no crime at all other than being in the country illegally. And she's like supporting that idea. So we want you to repost this. Now, there's this thing going on that is called the Unfuck America Tour, and that is happening on social media. These young people are going and following Charlie Kirk's. Well, this guy's not so young, but they're following Charlie Kirk's a tour, and they are trying to debate him and set up separate, debates and that kind of a thing. And, ultimately, I think it is good. I do push back on these debate influencers, these fact-based influencers who talk about issues with other people who are in the MAGA camp, and they, I have lots of issues with Jubilee and these other products that are out there. They are de facto right-wing propaganda because they just lift and validate the right-wing propaganda, because it's sort of like, well, this person says this and this person says this. Really often only one of those people is an expert. The experts that they bring on from the right, the experts are like Charlie Kirk and like Ben Shapiro, who are literally paid propagandists, and the experts that they bring on from the other non-MAGA side is like a doctor or like a pundit like Sam Cedar, who is fact-based, or one of these young men who's on this Unfuck America tour. But I thought this man's message was really worth sharing with everyone. So again, this is a man who has been traveling the country, I think, with this tour, or he's just a professor there, I can't remember. But this tour goes and follows Charlie Kirk's indoctrination tour of the brainwashed. Sorry. He used to have a tour called You're Being Brainwashed, which was him brainwashing people, taking a tailgate tent and a microphone and going and talking to college students about how they're being indoctrinated or whatever, right, by their history professor, and not by the guy who's setting up a microphone to lobby for fossil fuels and tell them that minorities don't deserve opportunities, right? That's not a guy who's on an indoctrination program, okay, right? But I wanted to share this message with all of you because I think it's pretty beautiful and it's very in line with what we do here in the Mega Tub of Joy.
I have spent the last 7 hours of my life listening to Charlie Kirk feed bullshit to students on the campus of Texas A&M, and this is what I've learned. So first, Kirk is not a good debater, because even in this environment where he has stacked the deck in his favor, when he would get backed into the corner on an argument, he would always go to something inflammatory. For example, when somebody cornered him on due process for Abrego Garcia, he would pivot to an audience-friendly line like, "I will never apologize for telling illegal aliens to get out of my country." He also spent the entire day avoiding debate with anyone who could actually challenge him. His first dozen or so questions were taken from people with red hats on, which means the first half an hour of the entire event was just people telling him how much they loved him. After that, he only took questions from kids from Texas A&M because he knew he would get half-informed assertions that he could easily dunk on. Second, this event is pitched as something that's supposed to educate kids, but when you hear the kind of inflammatory rhetoric and cherry-picked stats that Charlie Kirk uses in his arguments, you understand this is nothing more than manipulation for attention. He has no intention of informing any of these kids of anything. And he also actively encouraged one student who asked if it was appropriate to learn the other side's arguments to refuse assignments in class where she was supposed to take up the other side so that she wouldn't violate her values. And lastly, maybe the most disappointing thing is that all of these hundreds of MAGAs who are lined up to go hear Charlie Kirk speak, I talked to a half a dozen of them today, red hat wearing evangelical Republicans. And what I found is these people are not unlike the Republicans in my own family. They are far, far less extreme than he wants us to believe. I talked to a young man who said he could not think of a single adult male Democrat in his life. I talked to a 21-year-old Republican who voted for Trump, and she said people who think there shouldn't be exceptions with abortion law are crazy. And after losing her dad at an early age a couple of years ago, with her entire family depending on her mom's public school teacher income, she wanted to see more policies that supported the middle class. Americans so badly want to be decent to each other, and that decency is still there right beneath the surface. But people like Charlie Kirk pouring $90 million a year into running campaigns to corrupt American minds, people like Donald Trump who want us to believe that immigrants are destroying America, they are the sole driving force in the effort to weaponize every single issue so they can divide us, exploit us, and harness us to gain more power. I have spent the last 7 hours.
So we want you to go to our reposts on TikTok. Reposts are place where Rev Deuce has verified information and persuasion that we need to use in the information war, because do not get it twisted. At all times, we are in an information war. So I just wanted to click on this and see who this gentleman was. He's a former MTV News political journalist. That's fascinating. He tells you his bias right there, but seems like he's a fact-based person. So what is this? What does this person share? Let me see if this is someone I'm going to add to my roster. It is so hard to be angry, Madison.
Charlie Kirk is a skilled debater, so it's very difficult to pin him down in a lie, but that's what we're about to do. When I was attending his propaganda rally at Texas A&M, a person in the audience correctly pointed out to Charlie that Phoenix Eichner, the person who's currently detained for the attack in Florida State, is a far-right extremist. Now, I didn't know that much about Eichner at the time, so I didn't know exactly how bad it was going to get. But upon hearing that accusation, and specifically the accusation that Eichner was a supporter of Charlie Kirk, Kirk absolutely lost his shit.
Shame on you to try to connect me with someone that did an act of violence, that became a liberal and was connected with the left-wing influencers that are here. He was more connected with the circus show than with Turning Point USA.
Did you see that where he pointed into the crowd? That's where I was standing, along with fewer than a dozen of other liberal content creators, standing in front of about 2,000 screaming teenagers wearing red hats, cornered between a metal barricade and a brick building. Absolutely nowhere to go. And Kirk is telling all of those kids that this guy is one of our supporters. Eichner is a registered Republican, a red hat wearing extremist who would have blended in perfectly with the group of people around us. And Kirk just straight up lied about his political views that were so extreme they got him kicked out of a political club in college.
He espoused so much white supremacist rhetoric and far-right rhetoric as well, to the point where we had to exercise that rule.
That rule being people who espoused views of violence and hate would be removed from the group. Now, if Charlie wants to debate over what's wrong with Eichner, I am perfectly capable of doing that. But that is obviously not something he wants to do, because he understands what would happen if those thousands of screaming kids standing in front of him, kids wearing the exact same hat that Eichner is wearing in this photo, realize the truth. That the political and philosophical arguments coming from Charlie Kirk's mouth and the absolutely abhorrent atrocities coming from people like Phoenix Eichner are cut from the same cloth.
Okay, so this guy is great. We are learning that this guy is really, really great. And so this is one thing all Americans love. This is really good content. This is the best case scenario. The path forward is clear. Let's just check in on this.
One question I get more than anything else as we watch every single battle on every single front escalate to where it feels like every institution in the United States is at war with the exact.
Okay, we are going to gently recommend, before I do more work, we are going to gently recommend that you go and follow Oh That's Rich on TikTok, and hopefully he's also on Instagram. You need to be a fact warrior at all times, and that means taking actions like this. They may seem small, they may seem trivial, but the billionaires don't think it's trivial to tune the algorithms a certain way. The billionaires have create the headlines and tune the algorithms in order to manipulate us and divide us. And so therefore we need to understand that we must be fact warriors at all times in this world. Rev Deuce is hot to be. He was doing a scratch track for the track Fact Warriors. It goes Fact Warriors, and so we're going to spread that all over the place, and we're going to become a big movement of fact warriors. And so that starts with you, and that starts with you sharing fact-based information every single time that you are online, because we need to push back on the algorithm of hate and division, and instead spread messages of joy and love and facts to everyone in this world. Because if you do not think that you are in an information war, that you are not in a hot information war for your mind, then you have not been paying attention, and that's okay. We love you, and we want you to start paying attention now that you're here listening to the dulcet tones of your friend Rev Deuce tell you that you must participate. You must no longer be on the sidelines in the information war. How did we get fascism in America? It's because we did not care, or rather, if we did care, we didn't do enough about our fellow Americans' media diet of dog shit and broken glass milkshakes, okay? And we want to go and watch a few other things online. We want to see some other stuff that we've been seeing. So we've been looking at a bunch of stuff from the Charlie Kirk TPUSA tour, because we want to push back on his program. He is manipulating American minds. He is indoctrinating our youth while projecting and saying that he is not doing that and that the left is doing that. That is a classic technique from a bunch of, what are we looking at here? Our website? From a bunch of propagandists. So please head to Be a Fact Warrior, head to publicenlightenment.com. There is a ton of disinformation out there on the internet about due process. About due process. And so we want to show you this video. This is a fellow American. This is the culture, the environment we have, the information ecosystem that we have creates Americans like this who say this kind of thing on the internet. This has 500 likes. This person has thousands and thousands of followers. Thousands and thousands of people are seeing this message. And so we need you to do the equal opposite thing that is righteous and supports democracy, which is to share fact-based information about due process. So here, look at this.
But due process. Seriously, why is it so hard for these liberals to understand the most basic things about our Constitution here in the United States? If you're in the country illegally, you don't get any due process. End of story.
So that's just not correct about the world, right? We know that here as fact warriors, right? And so we'll just go and we'll show you that in the bottom of this article, while we have some fact checks and stuff like that, and we have other influencers that you should share, like Attorney Ryan and Ryan Grimm, that you should all, so these are ways you can take action today. You can go log on to this article on publicenlightenment.com. If you are on Substack, you are already there. Eichner was right-wing, unfair that Kirk calls him left. There are plenty of leftist shooters he could point to, but it's really a problem with mostly young men. Sure, absolutely, Neblo. Now, Neblo, I'm going to call you Neblo now. Now, Neblo, you say leftist shooters, who are they? I would love to know about who they are. I mean, I don't really want to go and transition into a conversation about, people who are murdering people because they are washing disinformation. But yes, it is true that like many manifestos reference Donald Trump's great replacement theory that's pushed by him and Tucker Carlson and everyone in the right-wing manipulation space, because fundamentally that is a white supremacist space. We have to understand that fundamentally the billionaires who have built hundreds of think tanks to manipulate our society and get 1/3 of our country to support the destruction of their democracy in the name of theocracy, we have to understand that those people are being influenced deeply. So we want to show you, there's a fact article from factcheck.org that is in this public enlightenment article. So please go and share that around to everyone else. We encourage you to be a fact warrior. And just to debunk that man's disinformation, the 5th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution establish the right to due process. The 5th Amendment says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. The 14th Amendment extends this obligation to the states. And you have an expert reminding everyone that there is no way to have due process and decide a group of people are not entitled to it. Due process includes the opportunity to know the charges against you and to argue against them. If a government is ensuring due process, every individual removed will know why they are removed, and they will have an opportunity to make their case on why they should not be prior to removal. This is even true even for the undocumented, even if someone is here without authorization. That is why the Constitution uses the word person and not citizen. It was a purposeful choice by our founding fathers. They got a few things right, those founding fathers. You know what I mean? So welcome into the space, everyone. We have just about 20 minutes left in the program today. Here is a space where we are fact warriors. Here is a space where we push back on disinformation at all times. Here is a space where we understand that all of our problems are the result of our information ecosystem. We know that it is a toxic information ecosystem. And so what we do is we show people how to find healthy fact-based information. You can go to Public Enlightenment on bluesky.com. If you are using Twitter, do not use Twitter anymore. It is a disinformation space. So you are supporting the billionaires and the disinformers and the hate mongers when you are on there. And so instead you want to go to Blue Sky. You want to go to the list of publicenlightenment.com. You can see how to get there right there up at that publicenlightenment.com. And then you can see fact checkers. Several times over the last week, Donald Trump has assured Americans that the prices of eggs and gasoline are down significantly, but he's made false claims about the cost of both products. Okay, so we got fact checkers. We got several times over the last week, he's assured Americans that the prices, okay, they got another article. We got talking with reporters today. Trump said virtually every country got away with murder and trading with the U.S., but experts say Trump tends to use the term cheating to refer to a bilateral trade deficit, which can stem from completely different reasons. So we are providing places where you can get the context you need to understand the news, okay? And we, of course, have the news, which we really are working on at all times, and it is pro-democracy news that is biased towards democracy, context, and facts. You're not going to always agree with everything on the list or everyone who's on the list, but we need to get that going. Okay, we can do that for you. I've thought about that. So that's going to be something that Deuce adds. Maybe I'll put out an article about that at the same time. So it's like now now Blue Sky, now Public Enlightenment's lists feature foreign affairs. I guess I'll have to call it like news feed. Like Public Enlightenment's news feed, foreign affairs and economy. Okay, that's a great idea. We love ideas from the community. If you want to call in right now, Valerie, and talk about your media diet, we would be so grateful if you did. We love to talk to people about their media diet here. We love to talk to people about their information ecosystem. So is there anyone in the Substack who would want to call into the program right now to end this show on a high note, to end this show on the incredible path that we put ourselves on to be fact warriors at all times in the Megachurch of Joy, a church of joy that pushes back on fear's embrace while also seeking to embrace fear. And I got to get tight on that. Hey, thank you, Mo. Thank you, Mo. Absolutely. Please go print out the Charlie Kirk article that we have on Public Enlightenment. Print out that article. I keep going to that draft. Print out that article. If there's also something that anyone in the chats wants to know about our society, wants to know about what's happening with our news and information. But so here we go. Let's do 95 theses. Let's do 95 theses. Why don't you go in your upstate town, which I'm sure is adjacent at least to a right-wing MAGA town, and why don't you go print this out and nail it to the front door of a local church. It's about guerrilla messaging, everybody. Why don't you go in your upstate town, which I'm sure is adjacent. Stop doing that. So anyway, those are the ways that you can be fact warriors in this time. We need to push back against the algorithm of disinformation and hate. And so let's check in on a little bit more news while we wait to see if anybody wants to call into the show. We would love for you to call into the program right now to talk about your media and information diet, to talk about a news story that you are not sure if it is true or not, to debunk disinformation, to talk about your fear, and to donate to Rev Deuce. So let's go to our timeline. How do we do that? Okay, let's see what we've been reposting. You can go share this video and boost Deuce. That would be great.
I actually sent her your page and a ton of other creators on TikTok.
And so, Caroline, you are also an amazing person who was able to get your conservative sister to go out into the streets and start protesting what probably her regular sources of information are telling her to cheer.
So she kind of was in that alt-right pipeline. She was kind of obsessed with Joe Rogan and his podcast and things like that. I don't know where she was getting her news. I think it was Newsmax. Is that the conservative one?
Right.
So,
propaganda network made to look like news that is not news.
She kind of expressed some doubts about what she was seeing and how it didn't feel right to her.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me give you some good information. And I sent her, your page and a ton of other creators on TikTok. And so she's been kind of looking at more information that's fact-based. And I sent her some news sources that are, that have actual facts in them. We were having conversations about, them deporting people to El Salvador. And
so we want you to go and support Rev Deuce by sharing that ad for what we're doing here. And we're so excited about our relationship with Caroline. We're so sad about what's going on the internet. We've shared this yesterday. Democrats should stop appearing on Fox News, and here's why. You can check that out at the Public Enlightenment thing. But let's do a brief window into our mainstream media and what they are doing. Let's take a brief look. A Russian general is killed in a car blast as Trump envoy meets with Putin. That's fascinating. Okay. Let's see what else we've got. Consumer sentiment plunges 8%. This is mainstream normalizing outlet CNN. CNN is largest shareholder is someone named John Malone, who has a good relationship with CEO of CNN, David Zaslav. And so they are conspiring to, do flattering coverage of Trump wherever they can. But it is still a fact-based news organization. So there is that push and pull at all times going on with our mainstream corporate media that is largely owned by people who support the MAGA movement. Absolutely, Niblo. I would say, though, that just someone being a trans person does not necessarily make them a left-wing shooter, right? To be a trans person is not a ideology or a political way of being or stance. To be a trans person is to be a regular person like you or me. If you consider yourself as a cis person to be a regular person, then a trans person is also a regular person, someone who exists in the world, and a type of person that has existed for as long as human beings have existed. So, certainly I'm open to hearing if that trans girl who, yes, I believe it was in Tennessee, if she had, communist politics, I would love to understand that. But simply by being a trans person, it does not mean that you are, a political ideology one way or the other. So maybe it's true that, she wrote a manifesto and she said, I cannot wait until the proletariat owns the means of production. And so if that's so, I think most people are just greatly disturbed. And then we do have, lots of information about a bunch of mass shooters where they do write manifestos and they do perpetrate and perpetuate ideas of white supremacy that they hear from leaders around the world and hear from their communities of extremism. So FEMA memo on limiting federal aid recommends denying disaster declarations for all snowstorms. So again, we want to talk about the world in which there was disinformation. Yeah, no worries, Niblo. We love you and we support you, and we're grateful for you engaging in the chat. It is important for everyone to engage in the chats. It speaks back to the algorithms, and it lets them know that people are watching and that they are engaging with what is going on here. So please, if you are in the Substack and you want to call in and talk about your media diet, we have about 10-15 minutes left in the show today. Let's go and look at the news as it exists in Rev Deuce's Public Enlightenment news feed so that we can understand, the information stream that we could be looking at all times. Again, we highly recommend that you consult with. Now, is this in our list? Let's see, add to lists. It is in the list of the news. So let's go check in on our list of the news. You can follow it on publicenlightenment.com. You can you go to our profile, you click lists, you go down here right to the news. You can pin it to your main news feed, unpin pin right up here. And that way you can always have access to this feed of information that is off of the mainstream corporate media as much as I could do it. We do have the AP in there, but the AP is a wonderful mainstream outlet. It is a news service that is providing really high quality information and fact-based news about the world. So that Google announced a massive $70 billion stock buyback spree. The corporate giant has also laid off hundreds of workers this month. That's just a straight up tweet from More Perfect Union, which is a pro-democracy newsroom that builds power for working people. And we want to push things that have a fact-based bias and a pro-democracy bias. That's what we do here. And that is the news feed that Rev Deuce is trying to create for all of you and all of us. Because in this world where all of our problems, the reason we have MAGA is because of the right-wing disinformation propaganda network that has been created over the last 60 years by hundreds of think tanks, by billionaires who are extremist Christians who want to bring about theocracy in this country. Hell yeah, we love that attitude of gratitude from Michaela Lemon Raccoon in the chat. We're so grateful for you, Substack. Let's get loud. Tap that heart button over there in Substack. Let the algorithm know that you care about fact-based information and you care about saving our country with healthy information. I'm Rev Deuce, your information nutritionist, and we are here as a community to talk back and forth about issues of media, about issues of how we are all informed, because everything that we know about the world is told to us by a stranger. That's right. Most of the information we know about the world is told to us by someone who is either a pundit paid by a billionaire or a pundit paid by a corporation. And so we want to understand what it means to absorb news and information about the world. What are the motivations and the agendas of the people who own our means of communication, and how are they pushing their agendas to divide us and distract us and get us to be on board with their extremist agendas that are anti-human, anti-worker, worker and anti-joy. And we are all about joy here. So the Small Business Administrator, Kelly Loeffler, a extremely wealthy person herself, small businesses like tariffs. What I'm hearing from small businesses is they want that level playing field. They know this is a short-term situation that is going to be replaced by a much brighter long-term. That is a propaganda message coming to you from a propaganda network that was created by Roger Ailes and Rupert Murdoch to manipulate you, MAGA, and we need you to understand that and get off the propaganda stream of information and onto the flawed but fact-based mainstream media and then independent and nonprofit media ecosystem. We are going to put out a video about that. That's not what I'm hearing from small businesses at all. That's what I was about to do. I was about to look up small business is hurt by tariffs to just prove that that is just a manipulation from our government. We live in a post-truth America where our government is actually a set of disinformers and corrupt people. We looked into yesterday how Pam Bondi received money from Donald Trump in 2008, it appears, and then over the course of the next few years, Pam Bondi's office, when she was head of she was the Attorney General of Florida, Pam Bondi made those accusations disappear. There were 22 accusations brought against of corruption and fraud brought against Trump University in Florida, and they reduced it down to 1. And so now she is the Attorney General of the United States. That is deep corruption. If you would like to call into the program, we would love to talk to you about your media diet. Haven't felt the full impact of that yet. Shark Tank, okay, that's a disinformer, entertainer. Trump's tariff pause won't help these small businesses that are already hurting. So we can refute all of this. This may become a Deuce Debunks. Because Deuce Debunks disinfo, which is a story that we have, that can also become okay, so we're going to put this into a thing for Deuce, and we're going to put another thing into a thing for Deuce so that Deuce can keep track of everything. Where even was that? Deucey, you got too many tabs. So we're going to maybe also start to use the Deuce Debunk series to push back against disinformation. So just bear with Deuce real quick while he makes the sausage. Rev Deuce, oh no. Gosh. Oh no. Oh my gosh, hold on everybody. I swear to God, I love you so much and I'm so grateful for you. Rev Deuce is trying to make himself accountable to making more content for you later. So he has too many tabs. Oh yeah, baby. What do we do, baby? With that love. Well, we've been together, darling, for 1,000,000 years. And we've been together, baby, for 1,000,000 more. I am blowing this. Oh my gosh, I'm blowing this. Hold on, everybody. Stick with me. I want you to call into the show, and I want you to talk to me about your sources of information. I was doing such a good job, and then I started doing such a bad job. But so this is abject propaganda from her, from Kelly Loeffler. Here we go. Forbes, right? We're gonna make this video today, that's for sure. Okay, perfect. Now let's get back into just going through a little bit of the news with Deuce so that you can see the value that we provide with our news stream on publicenlightenment.com, Blue Sky, and also at publicenlightenment.com. We are writing articles, and on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, we are producing videos that you can use to flood the zone with fact-based information about our media diets and how we can understand our information ecosystem. We provide the context you need to understand the news. So the FBI just arrested a sitting judge. Wait a second. What? 14 minutes ago from Marissa Kabas. This is how you can impress your friends at parties by pulling out your phone and knowing what's going on with the news before everyone else does. Oh my gosh. They've arrested a federal sitting judge. Kash Patel, disinformer, now conspiracy theorist, now running our FBI. Just now, the FBI arrested Judge Hannah Dugan. This is a step forward in our constitutional crisis, everybody. After evidence that Judge Dugan was just obstructing an immigration arrest operation last week, we believe that they intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, allowing the subject to evade arrest. Thankfully, our agents chased down the perp on foot. Is this that video of that guy when they arrested him and tackled that old man inadvertently? Whoa. This is a huge story. This is next level. This is a perpetuation of... No, I don't want to write a reply. I want to see what people are saying. And contextualizing. Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan arrested by federal authorities at the courthouse. Holy shit. What is JS? What is JS online? What do legal experts have to say? Okay, let's look into this. This is worth looking into, finding out what legal experts have to say about this breaking news that is happening right now. A federal judge has been arrested. A federal judge has been arrested by the FBI. Legal experts, including former federal prosecutors, say they are troubled by the FBI's investigation into Milwaukee County judge accused of helping an undocumented defendant avoid arrest. So this is obviously, if this is not true or not verifiable that this judge did this, it will now become a right-wing talking point. This is making the sausage, okay? So they are making the sausage, right? They are making the sausage. This is going to be they say activist judges. They say left-wing activist judges all the time. They call your neighbor's kid who's in college a left-wing radical Marxist communist, right? When they're just a college student who thinks that it's not cool to do a genocide in Palestine. Okay, so this is going to become a right-wing talking point. Hear me now and believe me later. They are going to ramp up their accusations that all judges, Judge Boasberg, the judges who are telling them that they cannot do these things, the Supreme Court who is telling them that they cannot do these illegal moves to bring people illegally out of the country and bring them into a foreign prison labor camp. This is going to be a ramping up of that. Let's keep looking at this. Keep talking about it in the chats, folks. Keep tapping that heart button on Substack. I'm so grateful for all of you. I do have to go soon, but this is breaking news happening right now. On April 18th, agents attempted to arrest a Mexican citizen after a hearing in her court. Sources told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that Dugan directed the ICE agents to a different judge's office. During that time, sources said Dugan allowed the defendant to leave the courtroom through a side door, down a private hallway, and into a public area. Okay, interesting. Some legal experts said Dugan's actions appear to be reasonable efforts to protect the integrity of the courtroom. Others said there may have been a better way to handle the situation. Okay, a better way to handle the situation does not mean an illegal way or a more legal way, perhaps. Given what has been reported, none of the 5 experts interviewed by the journals believe Dugan should be charged with a federal crime. Let's highlight that. None of the 5 experts, right? Not agents of the government in their disinformation campaign, not political officials like Democratic politicians, 5 legal experts, okay? We need you to hear that, MAGA, because you often say that you don't trust experts and you don't trust everything that you disagree with is a left-wing disinformation thing. Niblo is saying Curtis Yarvin's butterfly revolution in the chat. Please keep getting active in the chats. We are so grateful for your chats and your ideas and your thoughts, and we want to hear them. That is fascinating. I don't even know that term butterfly revolution, although we do know who Curtis Yarvin is. Former federal prosecutors say intent is an important factor. Based on the available details, a law professor at Loyola and former federal prosecutor said she believes Dugan's actions are problematic but not necessarily criminal. If there is evidence Dugan intended to help the defendant evade arrest, that may cross the line into a criminal act, but it's also possible the judge had a different reason for allowing the defendant to leave through another door, and no one should jump at the assumption, although they are going to create and make that assumption for everyone. So Levinson said, a better practice is for courts to issue clear protocols for these situations so judges know what to do. The chief judge who was, that this Dugan directed the officials to his office has said he is in the process of drafting protocols around immigration enforcement at the courthouse. Okay, so this is basically like at your place of work, there's no clear idea about how to handle when ICE comes to try to arrest someone. And so this judge said, I don't want my court to become a a wild place, a kangaroo court. I don't want to be interrupted by an arrest in my court. I want to preserve the sanctity of my court. So please, would you go out this door? Now, there's also the contention by the government, which is run, the FBI is run by a conspiracy theorist and a disinformation agent. So we have to take that into account. And please, if you like what I'm doing here, tap the heart screen on Substack and share this with everyone on YouTube and like this live. I don't know what happens on YouTube, but like it, share it, do all those things. Got it. Thank you, Niblo. Ashley has noted that immigration arrests at the courthouse are not unprecedented. Milwaukee attorney and former federal prosecutor said if Dugan were to be charged, prosecutors would have to prove that she had the intent to violate immigration law. So that's going to be very hard to prove. But in the court of public opinion, Cash and all of these other disinformers in our government, this is going to be the new talking point. The judge is going to be referred to as a liberal activist, radical leftist judge, an activist judge, and they are going to hammer that point over and over and over and over again to their followers. So look at me now and believe me later, MAGA. We're going to clip this, and then it's going to be something we say. Jesse Waters is going to be on your programs tonight talking about a radical leftist judge. Okay. The Greg Gutfeld and all of those other people are going to be talking about a radical leftist extremist activist judge. Almost immediately. J.D. Vance is going to come out with a tweet. Donald Trump is going to come out with a Truth Social. Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool. They are all going to make this into a massive story when we already also have other real concerns and massive stories in this country. This is going to be fodder for the manipulation stream of information that MAGA is hooked up to. And when we or anyone else who's not MAGA says, let's look at the facts of the case, let's be cautious about this, they are just going to say, do you care about America? You must be a leftist, radical, cultural, Marxist, low T soy boy. All of these things are going to happen about this story. And then if this does not reach the level of moving further onto something, they are going to then further use that as a talking point about how the entirety of the government apparatus, the deep state, is still in place. And so you must. Okay, Niblo is sharing some information. Yes, Niblo, we also saw that piece of information in this article as well. We are grateful for you doing contiguous research. That is beautiful, and we are very appreciative of it. I'm glad that I expanded how much you can write into the chat. Where is the chat? Why don't we see the chat? Oh, it's over there. Whoops. So thank you, Niblo, for doing that simultaneous. So the commission is active. Absolutely, Niblo. We hear you. But the contention seemingly will be from this judge that they were trying to just keep their courtroom from being a spectacle, a place where the arrest would take place. But it does seem like there was a deflection. Now, is this the worst thing that's happening in America? No. Is it something that was maybe a wrongful act by this judge? Perhaps. We will wait and see what happens. But we know that everything is kicking into high gear before the adjudication, before this is determined one way or the other. We know that the manipulation, the public opinion manipulation stream and thing that is happening on the right is going to start kicking in immediately. All the pundits, Tim Pool's talking about this right now. He and his buddies are writing up all the talking points. And so we thank you, Niblo, for sharing that information. So Judge Marisabel Cabrera, who also replied to Ashley's email, Ashley being the head court judge at the court, wrote that she believed ICE agents were carrying an administrative warrant instead of a judicial warrant. The two types of warrants carry different levels of authority. Administrative warrants are not signed by judges and do not give law enforcement officers permission to enter in private spaces. An administrative warrant also does not mean that the subject is being charged with a crime. Kravitz said, rather, it is more similar to a subpoena and used as an investigation tool. We wouldn't allow the courtroom to be invaded for purposes of serving a subpoena. Okay, so that is another piece of contextualizing information that is interesting. This is a quality article by the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, which is owned by Gannett, I believe, and Gannett is not the best in terms of firing reporters and closing down and making their information less high quality, but this is covering a lot of contextualizing information. Kravitz said he would not feel the same way if ICE agents presented a judicial warrant. Judicial warrants are issued by courts and give law enforcement officers the power to arrest people anywhere, including in private spaces. Judges are familiar with judicial warrants and understand that they must comply with them. Michael Fox, a legal fellow at the Libertarian Cato Institute, which is a right-wing, billionaire-funded thing, said administrative warrants are usually issued for people without violent criminal histories. While he does not believe Dugan's alleged actions were appropriate, they are also not necessarily a crime. Okay? So that's a right-wing think tank expert saying that they are not necessarily a crime. However, Fox said it would be difficult to determine whether Dugan broke the law until all the facts are known. According to Fox, a more appropriate response could have been for Dugan to hold ICE agents in contempt of court. In March, a Boston municipal court judge held an ICE agent in contempt after the agent detained a suspect while he was on trial. In that case, unlike the incident in Milwaukee, the defendant was arrested in the middle of his trial. Experts say ICE's actions could have a chilling effect on residents who need to use the courthouse. So this is a reason why a judge might want to make it not a spectacle in their courtroom. All 5 legal scholars, hey, MC Wee Smith, we are going over this breaking news that a judge was arrested in Milwaukee County. A Milwaukee County judge was arrested by the FBI for aiding and abetting an illegal immigrant. Essentially, I do not know if that is the official charge, but that is essentially the accusation that is being leveled. And so conspiracy theorist mongering and lying FBI administrator and chief is doing this. So let's also see what they said if my theory is true. Boston Municipal Court Judge, ICE contempt. Boston Municipal Court Judge, ICE arrest. Okay, so we have this as judge holds ICE agent in contempt after he is detained, and then let's see where like Fox News came down on this. We'll type in, and Fox is not news, it is a propaganda network. I do not like to say the term Fox News. They knowingly lied to the American public about COVID and about This from Fox News says, Massachusetts judge who helped illegal immigrant escape ICE arrest indicted, federal authorities say. Okay, this is a Massachusetts judge? Indicted by a grand jury. Obstruction of justice. Interesting, fascinating. So they had an administrative warrant. So how did they get this indictment? Fascinating. This judge is crying. Holy crap, I didn't know about this. So they had a drunken driving warrant, this illegal immigrant did. Wow. Okay. Medina Perez's lawyer was also already heard. So this is the Boston case we're talking about now. So the lawyer for this immigrant who was arrested in the court by ICE, and then that led to this Boston judge being indicted just recently. ICE will pick him up if he walks out the front door, but I think the best thing for us to do is clear the fugitive issue and release him on a personal and hope that he can avoid ICE. That's the best thing to do. What if we detain him, the judge asked. And then the judge asked them to turn off the courtroom's audio recorder. Interesting. Minutes later, the lawyer for this immigrant said his client has some property downstairs and needed to speak to an interpreter. With the recorder off, defendant and defense attorney discussed devising a way to have that person avoid being arrested by the ICE officer. Interesting. The ICE agent waited in the lobby, not knowing that he had already left the building. Interesting. Interesting. But was it an administrative warrant? Fascinating. Okay, so interesting. So we will leave that one knowing that we are not sure exactly what's happening in that case, but it seems like that, yes, the judge, to some degree, I mean, you know, look, as a human being, we can say, like, look, they're illegally, they're defying other courts. Like, this judge is aware that they're defying other courts to return people. So the judge may be like, just as a human, you know, look, if they arrest this guy, he may be sent to a foreign prison. And that, just as a human, is effed up. But they do, I guess, have to follow the letter of the law. So look, this is the end of the program for today. We are so grateful for having you. Rev Deuce has to get to a meeting. Rev Deuce loves you so much. And do you love yourself? If you don't love yourself, Rev Deuce wants to tell you that you can. You're allowed to love yourself. You're allowed to forgive yourself. You're allowed to be the beautiful being of light that you are and who you were when you were born into this world. Whatever actions you have taken in this world that may have filled you with shame or doubt, may have made you feel inadequate, you can feel those feelings if you want. But we just want to remind you that those are fear's patterns that are working on all of us at all times. Fear is our God, and fear is nothing more than a giant dickhead. Now, we're not saying that it's easy to push back against fear's embrace. He is very strong, and he hates us. But we also realize that fear is going through the same things that we are. Fear is the embodiment of all of the hatred and violence that has been perpetuated upon everyone. And so fear is who he is because he has suffered as well. And so when we have that understanding for fear, we have that understanding for everyone. We know that everyone is doing the best they can with what they have. And so if we find ourselves mired in fear's patterns of cynicism and doubt, fear's patterns that we walk in life, displacing the earth beneath our feet and building up obstacles to human connection, we say that there is another way. There is a way where we realize that in the face of our fears, we can use our energy and love. We can use our support and our skills at supporting others to lift others up, to connect, to be grateful, to give, and to have gratitude. And so how will you have gratitude for yourself today? How will you forgive yourself today? How will you love other people and give your energy of love and support to others? How will you be gracious in the way that you speak with people, listening to them and seeking agreement and commitment to their ideas, even when you do not agree with those ideas yourself? So I love you, you love me. We are an intergalactic family. Please go spread public enlightenment wherever you can. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend. We want people to come in here and talk to us live about their sources of information. And we want you to have a fantastic day where you realize that you are loved. You are a rock star. You are a beautiful being of light who is worth so much in this world, and you have value.